Alright, you can start off if you want to turn over to Romans chapter 12. How many people here consider themselves a disciple?
We're working on our own day.
Well, maybe I should, a disciple.
So what does it take to be a disciple, now?
Well, a disciple.
I know God help.
We get religious over it, but let's not be religious. Let's think a little bit unreligious here about what a disciple is.
That's what
A disciple is someone who follows someone else in order to learn something from a master of something. Okay?
To learn a discipline.
Yeah,
That's where the word
that's
comes
what
from,
the word comes from, discipline. So you're learning a disciple, discipline. It means you want to be disciplined in whatever that thing is that you're learning. Probably some of the more famous ideas of disciples would be kung fu fighters that follow some kung fu master to learn all the discipline of kung fu. Or it could be anything, though. It could be, really, if you're following anyone that's supposed to be a master of something, even in the natural world, you're trying to be a disciple of whatever that person can teach you, whatever they can discipline you into being, whether it's something like a sport or something like a trade or something like anything. You become a disciple. So I guess let me amend my question. How many of you would then consider yourselves that you are at least striving and want to be and trying to be a disciple of YHUH? He's the master. That's what those men followed him around. And they were called his disciples. And he was called the master. And the whole point of following him around all that time is to become as your master. To learn what he has to give you and then to walk as he walked. Okay? A kung fu disciple, the object is to gain all the knowledge of your master and be able to do that the same way your master does. That's the point of it. You should be. I'm beginning to notice in myself as I'm reading different scriptures every week, you should be actually starting to notice that there is nothing anywhere in the scriptures that is going to tell you something different. It tells you the same thing. Whatever we talk about, it will be related to everything we talked about for the last 3 years. It doesn't change. It never goes away. It never is talking about something completely different. It's always related. So if we begin in Romans and we go to chapter 12 and I begin at verse 1, it's written this. I call upon you therefore, brothers, through the compassions of Elohim, to present your bodies a living offering, dedicated, or your Bible might say holy, dedicated, well-pleasing to Elohim, which is your reasonable worship. It's your reasonable expectation. All right? And so you should already see some words and some ideas we've been talking about for a while. All right? You should already say, present your bodies a living offering. So now what is your body being called? An offering. A living offering. So it's not having its own life like we've been talking about. It's not going off doing its own thing. It's a living offering dedicated. So your body then therefore should be a living offering dedicated and well-pleasing to Elohim. So your body turns into an offering. It turns into something dedicated, a dedicated tool for Elohim to be pleasing to him, which is your reasonable worship, or I think the King James says your reasonable service. So this is a reasonable expectation that he's throwing out here. It's not something way off somewhere that should not be achievable. He puts a very humble and achievable word connected with this. Reasonable. Alright? Reasonable. To be reasonable is something that I could talk to you, and I can expect that each and every one of you can do it, can understand it, can accomplish it. It's something that you should be able to do. Alright? So this is your reasonable service, to present your bodies a living offering, dedicated and well-pleasing to Elohim. That's our reasonable service. Verse 2. And you're going to once again think about the idea that what I'm telling you, what you're reading here in verse 2, we've covered this. It's going to start talking about the world. And so it never changes. Watch how it never changes. Do not be conformed to this world. That's pretty much what we keep talking about, isn't it? Do not be conformed to this world. This world has nothing to do with what you're supposed to be. Nothing. The way it operates, the way it chooses to live, the way it thinks that life's supposed to work, it's nothing to do with you if you're trying to be a disciple of Him. If you want to be a disciple of Him and you want to follow in His footsteps, then this world's ways, this world's whatever, it don't have nothing to do with the way we're going to have to walk. So once again, we start this verse off with not being conformed to the world. That it's not supposed to be the thing that's dictating to us the way we live, what we are, what we're to do. It's only Him that's supposed to dictate the way you are. That's simple. Not life, not circumstance, not economies, not countries, not men, not the world, not the enemy, not anything but Him. He's supposed to be the only dictate in your life the way you flow outwards. Alright? The world is called an enemy. It's an enemy to Him. It's at odds with Him. And He's at odds with the world. Okay? The two never will be in agreement. Only when the world conforms into Him pushing out does then it become part of Him. Then it's no longer the world. The world is a separate thing than Him. That's the mystery of what the world has become. That through the corruption of sin, it's now a separate thing other than YHUH that has formed a life of its own, the same way we talked about your flesh. Your flesh is part of that world. Okay? In your flesh, it says, last week we read that your flesh will always be opposed to the Spirit, and the Spirit always opposed to the flesh. The two cannot come together, it says. And so that's why it says the flesh must be crucified. It must be put down to where it understands it is not where the life comes from. That it was supposed to be through the breath, through the Spirit of YHUH. It's where that life was supposed to become. So we're going to see these things. We're never going to stop. That's why it's going to seem like a lot of times we're talking about the same things a lot, because it doesn't change. It's not going to be different one week from the other week. It's all Him and it's all the same. So it says, do not be conformed to this world, but be transformed. Now we got two kind of odd words right here. Conformed and transformed. To conform means you do and act like you do what it's telling you to do. If I conform to the speed limit, it means I obey the speed limit. So that's what the word conform kind of means. To conform to something means I do what it's telling me to do. I go along with the standard procedure for that thing. So if I conform to the world, then what am I going to do?
Make it tell you what's
I'm
possible.
going to go along. I'm going to go along the same way you are not going to be able to tell the difference from you than the guy next door who is an atheist and don't know anything about YHUH. That's what conforming means. It means you live, he lives, and you can't tell the difference. You're both the same. You walk the same, you talk the same, you talk about the same things. You and him can walk out on your driveway and meet each other at the lawn and go, how's it doing? Oh yeah, man, I don't know. How about that president? Oh, how about that economy? Oh, I'm a man.
How about them Redskins?
Yeah, how about that game last night? Oh yeah, I did. My team now. Okay? You're going to look just like them. You act like the world. You sound like the world because you are conformed to the world. In every way. Every way it says you got to go, that's what you go. But now let's look at this other word it tells us to be. It tells us not to be conformed to the world, but to be transformed. And we have actually covered this so much, but we never name it a lot of times. I never go through and name it with you so that you understand what it is you're doing exactly. So we're going to name it tonight. We're going to put a name on this one of these processes. He can only deal with your spirit and get it reborn. But there is a part that you have something to do with. And you're actually commanded to have something to do with. And that is what we're about to read. Be transformed by the renewing of your mind so that you prove what is good and well-pleasing and perfect desire of Elohim. So he's saying that you can transfer your mind so that you can prove what is good and well-pleasing and perfect desire of Elohim. So if you transform your mind, you will actually begin to know what is well-pleasing and the desire of Elohim. Now, wouldn't you like to know what the desire of Elohim is all the time? Wouldn't you like to know what he wants? Because that's what this is what your goal is, to walk in his will. His will. Well, you can't walk in his will unless you know his desire, can you? So there's a missing step there that you have to cover before you can say your will be done on earth as it is in heaven. You've got to know his desire. You've got to know what he wants. You've got to know how he operates, what his goals and ambitions are. Because that's what you're all about. That's what you're created for his desire and his ambitions. It's his ambition that through you, he goes outward. For I say through the favor which has been given to
Bless
me,
you. Bless you.
to everyone who is among you, not to think more highly than he should think, but to think soberly, as Elohim has given each of us a measure of belief. Alright, that's really as far as I want to go here, because I want to concentrate on this renewing of your mind. So how do we begin to make our mind renewed? We know that we can, there's a scripture that tells us, I should have looked it up, but I didn't have time, that tells us that we are to renew our mind through the Word. That the Word renews our mind. Mm-hmm. And that Word is a living thing. It's YHUH. It's not this book. You can get information that he can give you and impart you with his Spirit through this book. But the Word itself only is real when it becomes alive in your heart. When you pick it up and it gets in your heart and it begins to live there and dwell there. So, let's go back to Matthew chapter 10. And I began asking you about being disciples. One thing you're going to have to understand about being a disciple, the first thing any good master of anything is going to tell his disciples is you're done doing it your way. Alright? Any good master of anything, whether it's an electrician or a kung fu expert or whatever that expert is and that master of anything in the world, if you come to that person and want to be their disciple and you want to put yourself under their tutoring, first thing that person's going to look at you and say, okay, you're done doing it your way. You just, by coming to me and wanting to be my disciple, you actually just told me that you agree. I'm the authority on this. I know how to work it. I know what to do. I'm the master here. So you can't do it your way anymore. That's the first thing you have to give up. You can't think of yourself more highly. And that actually goes in that scripture, the very end scripture of the last verse you read in Romans. Don't think of yourself more highly. Alright? You've got to first give up your pride and say, you know what? I know how the world works. I've been doing that. They taught me that from a baby. From a very baby, they taught you how the world works. That's the way everybody works. And very few of us had the luxury, or the, I don't want to say luxury, that's not good, had the blessing of being born into a household that was like doing all this perfect and knew all this. Most of us weren't born into that household. Alright? So we weren't born and raised that way. We were raised to let the world dominate. You were raised to let the world dominate, and you understood the way the world works, what it does, and this is what we're living by, what the world is. Now in Matthew chapter 10, verse 1, it begins like this. And having called his 12 disciples near, he gave them authority. Now this is a big step. Understand what this means for a disciple. He called his 12 disciples near, and he gave them authority. That tells you a little bit of something about their condition all of a sudden. They've moved up in the world. You don't give a disciple authority until they begin to learn a little something, do you? You don't let nobody loose until you feel like they've accomplished enough where they ain't going to just mess everything up. So apparently at this point, his disciples had gained enough knowledge in the way to walk that he's given them authority over unclean spirits to cast them out and to heal every disease and every bodily weakness. So he's sending them out to do the same thing he's doing. Alright? He's getting ready to send them out. And he names them here after this. He names the names of the 12, and he goes through. I'm not going to name all of them. As you go down to verse 5. And Yahuwah sent these 12 out, having commanded them, saying, do not go into any way of the Gentiles, and do not enter into the city of the Samaritans. Listen, this is a big thing here. He didn't send them out to anybody that wasn't part of Israel. And he's still not sending anybody out to anyone that's part of Israel, not part of Israel. And you go, but I thought we went in all the Gentiles. It did go to all the Gentiles. But inside all the nations of the Gentiles, scattered throughout all the world, there are, what he says next, but rather go to the lost sheep of the house of Israel. Now through all the world, in every nation, the scripture tells us, Israel has been scattered. That's what the scripture tells us. It says in every nation, Israel is scattered. In all the groups of people, there are people that are Israel. And how do you know who's Israel? How do you know who's a sheep? It's simple. You know it already. You know the answer to this. How do you know who's a lost sheep of Israel?
Everybody. Is that what you're saying?
How would you know who's a lost sheep of Israel? What do a sheep do? And whose voice do they hear?
Shepherd.
His voice. That's what he said. He said, my sheep hear my voice. Alright? Now, this isn't so important because we can't really distinguish who those sheep are when we're preaching. But they'll hear his voice. Those will be the ones that will come. Those will be the ones that have a desire. There are some people that it seems like their whole life, and this is a spiritual thing I'm talking about. It's not a physical thing I'm talking about. So I'm not talking about physical people, don't get carnal on me. This isn't physical things I'm talking about. But spiritually, they're lost sheep throughout every nation. And those are the ones that come to him. Those are the ones that hear the call and come. Yeah. Now, we can't know this. But there's a thing that you can know. Anyone who's hearing, you know they're hearing. If you ever preached. I can tell you, right offhand that when you're talking to any group of people, there are people that somehow or another there's a spiritual connection with the Word. And those people absorb it. Okay? They absorb the Word. It goes into them and they suck it up. And you can feel it if you've ever taught and preached. You can. It's like you're drawn. Your words are drawn to that person, and you can see, and you can. Something on the inside of you can see the person grabbing it.
1 o'clock Thanksgiving.
Huh?
Thanksgiving 1 o'clock. Yeah.
Okay.
Well,
So this isn't a physical thing we're talking about. You remember the woman that came behind him on the road one day and asked him to please come and heal? I think it was her daughter or her son, or I think it was her daughter. And he said, you don't take the children's bread and give it to dogs. You remember that? Well, at first, and then he said the same statement to her. I've only come but to the lost sheep of Israel. And he told her, he said, I don't take the children's meat and give it to dogs. Well, something changed in that woman at that point. And she said, well, even the dogs eat the crumbs that falls under the table of their master's table. And he turned around at that point and he said, you have a lot of faith. Go your way, you got what you want. Well, who did he say he just only came for?
Lost sheep. So she was a lost sheep.
She was a lost sheep. But what did she think she was? A dog. She thought she was a dog. He was jarring something in her to make her say, well, you know what? I can have this.
I'm a lost sheep.
Yeah, I'm part of this. Even if I was a dog, I could eat the crumbs that's fall down. Now, people have misinterpreted that. He told you who he came for. lost sheep. And he didn't just change his mind all of a sudden. It was her that needed changing. She wanted something, but she didn't feel like she could get it. She didn't feel like she was worthy. She knew who she was. She was the person that they called a dog. Alright? The other people kept calling her a dog. She was one of the bad people that the Jews wouldn't have no association with. So in her mind, she was a dog, and he jarred that enough to get her to believe something. Alright? And he didn't change his mind about lost sheep. He said it more than once. She was a sheep. He's come for the sheep, the ones that'll get it, the ones that'll grab it and say, you're mine. I'll be your disciple. I will follow you. I'm not someone who can't follow you. I'm not someone who can't do this or won't do this or make some excuse why I just shouldn't have nothing to do with you. I'm going to grab a hold of this, and I'm going to humble myself, and I know I'm not the master. I know I'm not in charge. I know I'm way below you on all this, but I'm going to follow you and let you discipline me. I'm going to follow you and let you teach me how I should not be conformed to this world. Alright. Except to the lost sheep of Israel. And as you go, proclaim, saying, the reign of heaven is drawing near. Heal the sick, cleanse the lepers, raise the dead, cast out demons. You have received without paying, give without being paid. Now, here we go. Here's the hard part. I'm about to give you his first message to you as a disciple going out. Here's the way your mind needs to think. This is actually beginning to be a transformation for you if you let it. You've got to get these thoughts in your mind and have your mind transformed to think like this. He'll take care of everything. He'll show you how to do and what to do and where to go. But you've got to change your mind and stop thinking about the world's way and listen to him. He's the master. Anybody here not agree that he's the master? And he's the way, the truth, and the life. Everybody here in agreement with that. Alright, so you've hooked yourselves. You agree with me that he is the master, he's the way, he's the truth, he's the life. And now you also agree with me tonight that you are endeavoring to come be his disciple.
Well, see, the
Okay.
reason I didn't raise my hand on that is because I could say that all I want. My actions don't show that. Because I don't spend any time reading the
Right.
Bible. This
Right.
is, and I'm weak.
But you know
So
what?
that's why I didn't acknowledge that. Is because I was
Here's
like, I
a
would like
good
to say that,
step.
but
You're here
I am here
Tonight.
Yeah,
alright? So you, Mark, you have a heart that wants to serve him. I already can know that and see
I
it.
do. I mean,
Okay.
I talk to him every day, but I
Yeah.
don't.
I mean, I can see
put the
it in
time
your inquiries and the way that you want to serve him. And so your heart is that of a sheep, lost sheep, whatever kind of sheep you want to think about it, sheep, okay? Because I can see it in your attitude towards him. All right? So here's our first step. I want to tie this in with renewing your mind, because here's the way it begins. He's the master. He's sending his disciples out, okay? So you're endeavoring to be part of this. You want to be part of this thing that he's doing here, is what we all want to be. And so he's getting ready to send his disciple out, and he says, he's instructing them before you go out. Now let me tell you these. Here's what you need to do when you go out. Show you how to do this. Alright? Now when you go out, do not acquire gold or silver or copper for your money belts. So you're not worried about going out and collecting money to take care of yourself when you go out preaching this gospel. Alright? That thing you don't worry about. Or a bag for your journey. So you're not taking a bag for your journey. You don't pack clothes. Now here's something. I mean, or 2 undergarments. Don't even take 2 underclothes. Is he still the master? Everybody with him?
Yes.
You want to tell the old folks that?
Okay? Is he still the master? Are you with him? Okay? Because there's a point to this. I know that we all ain't getting ready to run out to go, travel to preach the gospel everywhere. But listen, you've got to accept him as the master and hear what's behind these words. What he's trying to get across to your mentality. If you will hear them, then you can walk in it no matter what you're doing day to day. If you hear him, no matter what you're doing, you can follow what he wants you to do. If you would just agree as the master and hear Open your ears. In the name of Yahuwah, right now, I speak for ears that can be open and hear. To each and every one of you. Deaf ears be unclogged and be open. In the name of Yahuwah, hear what it is he's trying to tell you in this. Deaf ears open in the name of Yahuwah. So he says, take no bag or 2 undergarments or sandals or staffs, for the worker is worthy of his food. So if you're a worker, you're worthy of the pay. And who is it you're working for?
Yeah, so he's going to provide.
So, yes. Now, the problem is you want to go out and provide for yourself. You want to think of your own things, your own ideas. How can we make this on our own? And see, you don't know what's the desire of Elohim at that point. You're just doing your own desire. And so you're not falling into that category of a renewed mind on this. All right. And into whatever, now think about the difference in the way the established churches, the denominations of the church buildings are in this country today, the way they operate versus what he's saying here. Because I want to affect your mind so you think more like him and less like the world. Okay? Because the whole church has been duped into thinking like the world. Alright? It's just that simple. They think like the world for the most part. They follow after the same things the world follow after and do the same thing the worlds do. Okay? Alright. And into whatever village you enter, ask who is worthy in it and stay there until you leave. And as you enter to your house, greet it. And if the house is worthy, let your peace come upon it. But if it is not worthy, let your peace return to you. Now, we have no clue about all that, do we? Huh? Now, that means that these guys that are disciples he's sending out, he's done instructed them in ways that we are not even instructed in yet, haven't he? How to make your peace come upon a house and how to take your peace back. Well, isn't that what he did? Peace be unto you when they were worthy. Remember after he was risen, the first thing he said when he appeared to them in that room there where they were all locked up, he said, peace be unto you.
Never saw him take it back.
Yeah, he didn't well, it was worthy. They were worthy apparently. Yeah.
He didn't show us how to take it back.
Okay?
Give me that piece.
It's called shalom. And you hear that word in a lot of things. Jerusalem. Okay? It means peace. And it's connected with everything with him because Jerusalem means teaching of peace. So his city, the city he chooses is called the teaching of peace. So he's teaching us how to be at peace with him. He's teaching us how to walk in unity with him. That's what Jerusalem means. The teaching of peace, city of peace. Okay? Alright. Enter in a house, leave. And whosoever does not receive you, nor hear your words, when you leave the house or that city, shake off the dust from your feet. You see that a lot? You see many churches uprooting themselves and leaving the city when that city comes against the church and the leaders of the city say, you know what, we don't like Christianity and we don't like you guys and we're actually, we'd rather have a homosexual city or whatever else they might try to do, and they just reject any church packing up, leaving? Any church shaking the dust off? Is he the master still? Yeah. Is his way the way that we're supposed to walk? See, his way costs you the world. Alright? He said if you lose your life for his sake, you'll find it. But if you gain your life in this world, you're going to lose it. You have to lose your life. That means it's no longer your life if you're a disciple. You can look, no disciples go through a lot. I mean, I don't know. I don't like making movie comparisons, but it's the only thing I have to compare it by because we don't really have much disciple stuff here at all. So the only thing you compare it to is a movie where you see the guy and he's under the master and that master's just making him do all kinds of stuff and he don't even understand. You know?
Wax on.
Wax on, wax off, paint the fence. You know, that's the Karate Kid reference. Y'all don't, probably mom and dad never saw it, but it's a karate thing. And this young little kid wanted to learn karate, and this old guy said to teach him. And the first thing he told him to do is to paint the fence. And he made him paint it a certain special way. And he said, I want you to take a paintbrush in this hand, and a paintbrush in this hand. I want you to paint the fence, paint the fence, paint the fence, paint the fence. And then he made him wax the car, and he said, wax on, wax off. And he made him do it. And the kid's just working, and he's just getting frustrated. He's like, man, I've been here 2-3 days and you ain't taught me nothing. And the old guy said, wax on. And the kid went this and he tried to hit him. And he, wax off. And he'd been teaching him the whole time, but the kid just couldn't understand. Now that's a lot of times where we find ourselves. He's trying to tell you something much more important than even what you're reading on the page. Yet because you can't comprehend it right away, you just get all frustrated and give up. I ain't painting no more fence. Well, you just lost out on learning something that he wanted to teach you. Wax the car, paint the fence, do what he says, and you'll get there if you do it honestly before him, wanting to please him, and listen to him be the master. You will get there. But you never get there in rebellion trying to go back to your own way. I ain't painting
So
no fence.
what he's saying is like when you go to witness to somebody and they reject you, that you shouldn't try again, you should just leave?
He says if they reject you, wipe the dust off your feet and go away. Now, it don't mean you stop praying. I don't know what that means altogether. Like I said, just accept it, and he'll make you walk in it if you'll go with him and say, okay, you're the master. We may not understand it completely, but he will lead you into that.
Audio, verses 14 and 15 are interesting, particularly verse 15.
Yeah.
You know, what it says.
Yeah, we're going to
It
get to
mentions
that.
Sodom and Gomorrah.
Yeah. Yeah, so we say, shake off the dust from your feet. We read 14. Truly I say to you, it shall be more bearable for the land of Sodom and Gomorrah in the day of judgment than for that city. So he says the very city of Sodom and Gomorrah, that it's more bearable for them than someone that rejects someone coming out in his name and trying to, because guess what I'm telling you? What did he tell them to go? He said, come, and here's what you're going to tell them. You're going to preach to them that the kingdom of heaven is here. The kingdom of heaven is here. When did it get here?
Since the beginning of time. Since Jesus.
Well, when I'm preaching that to somebody that don't know that,
Oh.
and I
It
just
comes
walk
into your
up,
heart.
when's the kingdom of heaven just got to this person?
Yeah.
Right? This second. When I walk up.
Right.
Because where's the kingdom of heaven?
Within you.
In me. So if it's not in them, the kingdom of heaven just draws near to you. Now I'm here, I'm going to give you this good news that the kingdom of heaven is here with you. It's right here with you. The kingdom of heaven is here with you.
Hallelujah.
Now how can I say that? Because it's in me. Now if you reject me, you just rejected the kingdom of heaven because it's in me. Now that sounds bold, don't it? But you know what? That's what made people in awe when he came and preached to them. It says they couldn't understand this because he did not preach to them like the Pharisees and Sadducees. It said he preached to them as one having authority. Someone that knew what they were talking about and had the power and reservoir of strength from his Father in heaven to back it up. Now every week when we come here, I'm telling you, I was talking to Vera about this, and I was thinking about some of the things that I've endured in my life, and not that anyone would know anything. I'm not talking about physical things like stuff that's happened, but other things that, and I told Vera, I said, look, there's only one reason that this happened, and I said, in me, myself, listen, in myself, I'm just like everybody else. All right? In myself, I would want to do the same things everybody else is doing. Do you understand that? Football, sports, video games, everything else anybody else is doing. Everything that is different about me isn't because of me. Get that straight. It's because of him. Alright? It's because of what he is. What I show you and what I endeavor to show you week to week and what comes out of my mouth is what he's telling you. It's not me. I mean, I can't put it any plainer. Believe my witness or don't believe my witness. Because I'm just a person like everybody else. You believe it or you don't believe it. It's not me. That don't mean I'm perfect. It just means the message he's giving you, the message you've been fortunate enough to hear, because I feel fortunate enough to hear.
Love you.
Bye, Brad.
Alright? I go back and I listen to some of the stuff that I videotaped, and it convicts me. It makes me go like this and go, I did it during the night with Donna. I sit there, we listened to 2 of the things that we've done in the past and a while back, and I listened to them and I said, oh my goodness. I said, she said, what's wrong? I said, it's just,
Your whole word speaking back at you.
I don't know what to say. I just, I don't live up to it, I guess, sometimes. And that's when you're really like, gee, I know that's not me now. Because I'm not even living up to all that. Alright? So it's not me. That's why this is important, what we're talking about right now. Because he comes in me. And he'll come in you the same way. But you got to renew your mind to him and let him be the master. Like, you're the master. Okay, I do it your way. You said don't do this. Now, I don't understand. I don't understand what this paint the fence means. Why I don't need to take money. Why I don't need to do this. Why I don't need 2 pair of underwear. Why I can't take 2 pair of underwear. What's wrong with 2 pair of underwear? Well, he wants to get his esteem. It's his esteem that you're trying to bring. And the way he gets esteem is by providing everything for you. Everything! He provided your breath to serve him. He can't provide your underwear? Okay? Alright. So, truly Sodom and Gomorrah. See, I send you out as sheep in the midst of wolves. Therefore, be wise as serpents and innocent as doves. Did you know that that's actually a phrase today? And don't think of any phrase that you hear in the world that is just accidental. Because the world is against who?
God.
And he's against it. So if the world has a phrase, you can pretty much actually assume that it's a slap in your face if you're a believer. There's a phrase called sheeple. You ever heard it? What's it mean, Mark?
People that believe anything. They go along.
That's right.
Yeah.
It's a cut down, isn't it? Just a bunch of sheeple. You hear it in politics quite often, and people trying to cut the other side down or whatever. It's called sheeple. And it means you're just a sheep. You're just a worthless sheep that just goes along with anything. Well,
Rush Limbaugh calls them low knowledge.
Yeah.
Low knowledge people.
well, when you compare them to a sheep, who are you cutting down?
Christian.
You're cutting down those that follow him. And if you cut them down, who are you cutting down?
Yeah.
Him! Because when I walk up, the kingdom of heaven walks up to you, doesn't it? And if you've done it to the least of his brethren, then you've done it unto him. Now, I'll tell you another thought that you need to renew your mind to. If you've done it to the least of his brethren, how does that should make you feel?
You're saying if we have done it?
Now, if
If
someone does it to the least of his brethren, he says, you've done it to me.
You should be angry.
Yeah, so how should it make you feel? That's right. You should feel whatever he feels. If you've done it to the least of his brethren, you've done it to him. If you've done it to him, then everyone here, if you're in unity with him, it should be the same to you. You should not be to close yourself off from that. Because he doesn't close himself off from that. If you're a disciple and you've made yourself in unity with him and he's your master, then whatever he feels, then you should feel. Whatever he's doing, you should be doing. Because it is actually what he wants is you to be like him. Not above him, the scripture says. It says it's enough that the servant is like his master. Okay? Or the disciple is like his master and the servant is like his... It's 2 words there they use. Servant and disciple. But most of it is like. Be like unto. Not above, but like. So he says that we're like sheep. And the world says sheep was bad. You know, it's not a coincidence. But beware of men. Now, he said a lot about the way men would treat us. And what men would do to us. And how men would think about us. And he actually gave some pretty strong words about when men treat you good. Think of you all good all the time. The thing about the kingdom of heaven is when it's within you is that He will make you prosper. He will make you succeed. But it always says that that prospering and that success comes with persecution. Alright? It comes with persecution. You're always going to be different. You're not going to be able to walk around like everybody else and be like everybody else. You're going to be different if you're doing this right. So you might find yourself like Joseph. Okay? Joseph succeeded. The hand of Yahuwah was with him with whatever he did. Yet he was constantly persecuted from one place to another. From his brethren, then from where he went and was a slave, and then in prison. It was constant persecution all the time. Yet Yahuwah made him to prosper in everything he did. So that's the kind of life we're talking about. We're talking about a prosperous, successful life in Yahuwah, not in the world. Not the way the world looks at it. It's two different ideas here. Alright? The world has one idea of prosperity, and that's an abomination to Yahuwah. Because that's all they're serving. It's not what you got or what you don't got. That's not what I'm talking about. It's what you're serving is what I'm talking about. I'm not talking about what you can't have, what you can have, or anything like that. I'm talking about what you are serving. It has to be Him. Everything else should go away. Whatever that everything else is, it needs to just go away. And you should be serving Him. And then He will show you what is the will and desire of His Father. That's what we read in Romans. Alright. So this is what He says is going to happen when you're doing all this. But beware men, for they shall deliver you up to the Sanhedrins, and flog you in their congregations. You know, there's a flogging. I read the other day, Jeremiah. And I was surprised. I never saw this before. It says that when he was trying to tell them, YHUH, I want to say the right thing because you hear that name Yahoo and everything. But they pulled him out and they didn't want to listen to him. And it says they flogged him with their words. There's actually a scripture that says that. And I was surprised when I read it. And I was like, wow, flogged him with his words. They beat him with their words. They beat him up.
Verbal beat down.
Yeah, they beat him down. They all got around him. There's this lone messenger of Yahuwah. And they all got around and just decided we're just going to whip him down everything. We are just going to dispute him and come against him. And we're going to get our wisest guys out there. And we're just going to try to tear him down every way we can. Because they didn't like what he was saying. And what he was saying. It was all for, and this is the funny thing, it's all for their good. He was saying, please repent, turn away from your ways, because if you don't, this bad stuff's coming. Turn away from your own ways, turn back to Yahuwah, serve Him, stop all this other mess. You know what it says that you're supposed to do when Israel came into the promised land and they started to possess the land that belonged to them by promise to Abraham? And the other nations have been possessing that land. And it says, when you get into the land, He said, I want you to tear down their altars, chop down their groves. Everything that they had that they thought was valuable and that they spent their time worshiping, destroy it. Don't leave any of it. Because if you do, it's going to become a snare to you. Alright? That command has never changed. When you look at the people around you, whatever they're worshiping, whatever their time and efforts and desires are spent on, that's what they're worshiping. And what you need to do, tear it down.
Well, He wanted them also to go Old Testament on them too, right?
Well, those things are the symbols.
Kill all the people in the land.
Those
right?
things are all symbols of what we're supposed to come against in the world. Don't look at it fleshly. The scripture tells us if we look at the scriptures carnally or fleshly, that it's only death. So if you look at it only in carnal eyes and only think about the flesh, you're not going to get what He's saying. You're not going to follow what it is He's trying to get by that example. Because the big thing is when you go in that land, wipe it all out. Because it's an abomination to me. It's not what I want. What they're following after, what they're doing, wipe it all out. And you're right, that's what He wanted. Wipe it all out. Destroy the altars, destroy anything, destroy any remnant of that world that could get into you. Anything that could take seed and root. And they didn't. And then years later, they were destroyed because they didn't. Alright? So that's what the point of all that was with those nations and those 7, 8 nations that were there, that were just wipe them out, because that's the things that's going to destroy you. Those were the things that, or they're living where you're living. So they try to come in and live in the same place you're living. And so don't let them live there. Wipe them out. Chop them down. Don't make any remnant of it. I don't want to see nothing about those fake and false gods anymore. Anything that could get in and take over, I don't want it there. And so he said, wipe them out. And that's what that is calling us to do. Wipe it out. Don't let it stay there. Don't let it get a foothold. Don't go, well, let's just leave a little. Maybe we'll leave a little, it'll be okay. No, because it's going to grow and it's become big and it's going to destroy you.
Well, they should have killed all the people because they ended up, intermarrying with them and worshiping their gods and worshiping their
Well, that was
idols
the thing. That was what he wants to
their
show
religions.
us. Yeah.
Right.
But see, you have things around you. It's basically now you and the world. The world is what's pushing in at Yahuwah's creation. And Yahuwah wants to push out. And inside of you, then that needs to be wiped out. That needs to be renewed. Renew your mind. Start with Him. What He says. How He says we walk. Alright? Sheep, but beware of men, should be brought before governors and sovereigns for my name's sake as a witness to them and to the Gentiles. But when they deliver you up, do not worry about how or what you should speak, for it shall be given to you in that same hour what you shall speak. For it is not you that speaks, but the Spirit of your Father speaking in you. So now, once again, we're complete dependence on Him. Everything, so it started with your underwear and your money, and now where does it end up?
Your mouth.
Words. Even your words. It's not you that speaks, but your Father that speaks within you. Alright? And brother shall deliver up brother to death, and father to child, and children shall raise up against their parents and shall put them to death. And you shall be hated by all for my name's sake. But he who endures until the end shall be saved. By how many shall you be hated?
All.
All. Everybody. Okay? Everybody will hate you for his name's sake. And when they persecute you in one city, flee to another. Now you don't see that. That's what I'm saying. Listen, the church here is a part of this world. It's settled down. It's nice. It likes it. And you don't want to have to move. So it's not separate. It's not dedicated. It's just going along. Whatever way the world does it, that's the way the church works. Because I'm telling you, if you begin to walk in this, whenever people pick this up, it happens the same way every time. They begin to be persecuted. Every time. It's never failed throughout history. Even among his own people. You know, I think it's 2 Chronicles, if you were to go into the way the scriptures are laid out in the Hebrew scriptures, like if you were to go to a synagogue and the way they laid their scriptures out from old days. 2 Chronicles, I think it is the very last book that they have in their scriptures. It is, because this is laid out the same way.
Well, clarify yourself a little bit on these churches being persecuted.
What?
I just didn't quite understand that. You say all these churches are being persecuted, but no one dusting the feet off and leaving.
No, well, what I'm saying is this. The church here is comfortable. It's set up, it's established. They've got church buildings. Do you know there's not one place in any of the scripture where it tells us to build a synagogue? It says that we will be kicked out of their synagogues. Well, whose synagogue? Whoever's got the established synagogue. Whoever it is that's built buildings. Whoever it is that's... He never told his disciples to build a synagogue. He said, go preach city to city. Keep going, move. Don't take nothing with you. This is a very different kind of life than what we've done. Okay? There's no one disciplined in this art right here. Alright? It's build our own building, build our own synagogue. But that's the synagogues they will kick you out of. Okay? Let me ask you a question. I don't know what would happen. I don't know. But if I went and talked about Yahuwah in most churches and said I wanted to say Yahuwah, what do you think they would do?
If you use the word Yahuwah?
Yeah, if I went with that name into most churches and said, hey, the name's Yahuwah. There's some people a long time ago that kind of changed it all around, and his name's Yahuwah. And that's what I'm going to talk about, and whenever I'm in your meetings, that's what I'm going to say.
Well, naturally, they'd need more proof
Explanation, yeah.
of the real
I do
thing.
well, let me ask you this. I've explained it a lot, and it still has a hard time, even among this small group a lot of times. All right? He never told us to build synagogues. He never told us to build buildings. He told us to go from city to city, place to place, and do what his disciple does.
Sure. Well, people are trying to combine the world with God, which can't work. I mean, that's the way it is now.
Right.
And I understand what Ray's saying, though. It's not like the mayors are coming out and saying, we want all Christian churches
Right.
out of, because believe it or not, America, most people identify as Christian.
Yeah, they do. That's
Are they
the
true
interesting
Christians?
thing.
Yeah, that's the thing. Christianity is, quote, is huge here.
Right.
But like you said, as far as being persecuted, if you went out and we did like you're saying, you're not only be persecuted by the atheists and people who hate God, you're going to be persecuted by the people who say, whoa, if everybody starts doing like that, this world crumbles.
Yeah.
Nobody's caring about bank accounts. Nobody's caring about, advertising, all the corporate structure comes down. So you got everybody against you.
Yeah.
Because that's not the way that they make money.
Mhm. The thing is, most of the time we disconnect with his words at some point. We don't take them for ourselves. So when he says they'll persecute you from in their synagogues and kick you out of synagogues, we don't take that as personal. We just kind of go along and we do the same thing, but they'll kick you out of their synagogue. Whose synagogues? That's the thing. We never answered that. It's like, well, who's got the synagogue? Oh, that's not our synagogue. It was his synagogue. There was a synagogue in his town, a synagogue in the other town.
The chief priests.
Yeah, the
You
ones
know,
in charge of
it's-
the established, organized buildings. The
Right.
established,
The laws
organized
of Moses,
denomination.
in which the laws of Moses prevail. Not God's laws, but the laws of Moses.
Well, Moses' laws is the laws
Law,
come
right.
from God. I mean, you can't divide them up. It's all,
Right.
yeah. He wrote them down at the command of Yahuwah.
Right, but God's in a box, I mean, they were when they moved around, the Israelites moved around out in the desert, they moved him around, in a kind of a little tabernacle,
Right.
and they kept him in a box all the time, and basically that's where he was. But now, after, the prophets came and said, well, God doesn't necessarily have to continue to be worshipped,
Just in that.
just in that one confined space. He can be anywhere. Our God can be anywhere.
Right.
So
Well, and it's all about comfort zone. I mean, if you go preaching like you are tonight, Artie, that's not comfort because people aren't relying on God. I'm supposed to leave with nothing and travel from city to city. That's really going to throw off my American Idol comes on at 8:30 on Wednesday night. Hang on, I'm not gonna.
It throws off a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
And don't get me wrong, I know, listen, Yahuwah went to the synagogues and he preached there, and there was people that hurt, okay? So there are people go to the synagogues for one reason, because that's where they're trying to make contact, a lot of them, with their Creator. They're trying to find Him. And that's the place that everybody told them where to find Him at, okay? And so I'm not putting down everybody that's in a synagogue, and I'm not putting down everybody that is going to church. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying that this is not what he talked about.
It's a corrupted. It's
He didn't
imperfect.
talk about building synagogues. He talked about exactly everything he talked about. His disciples are standing on the outside. They're coming into the synagogues. They're coming into the cities. Okay? They're preaching. If the city listens, or if the synagogue listens, so long as they're willing to hear and not come against you, then you're capable of standing there and continuing to preach to that city or that synagogue or that person. But when they come against you and reject it, then he says, fine, you rejected this person that I sent to you, you reject me. We're going to walk away. Now, anybody that wanted to hear it, what are they going to do?
Follow him.
They will walk too. That's right. They will pick up their cross and follow me. Because if I'm walking in and walking out, he's walking in and walking out. So it'd be just like him standing there saying, oh, you want this? I got to leave this place and go to another place. Now you pick up your cross and follow me if you want to come. You pick up your cross and you keep walking with me, and then I'll discipline you. You can be my disciple, and now you can be the same as me. All right? That's from the very beginning, even with Abraham. Abraham walked around. He went to cities. He lived in cities for a while, and if they persecuted him, he left. Moved on to another city. Moved on to another plane, maybe not a city for that while. Moved on to something different. Okay? I say all this because he's saying it. But not, I'm talking about an attitude change inside yourself. Okay? I'm talking about what you accept as your authority on things. What do you accept as what tells you what is and what isn't. Okay? Because, look, I didn't write this.
Really?
I mean, sometimes...
Oh, he disappoints me.
I know. I mean, sometimes it's like when you're reading something, and it's like, sometimes it's like, well, if you're saying that, and it's like, wait, I'm not saying that. I'm just...
The Bible says...
I'm reading, mostly, is what I'm doing this whole night most of the time. And then I'm trying to kind of step back and say, okay, if you accept this as the authority, what does it look like to you now? If you truly accept this as your authority, then what's it going to look like? What's it going to be today if you accept it as authority? The only place where there's synagogues is the same place it always is. The established church buildings. They're the synagogue. I watched the way he walked into the synagogues. I watched the way he walked into the temples. That's the way you should walk into a synagogue. That's the way you should walk into a temple. Alright? Our temples and synagogues don't do anything, he said, as far as they're set up right. When's the last time, we talked about this the other week, when's the last time you walked into a church and everybody's sitting down and one person begins to speak, and in the middle of the pastor's sermon, someone goes, I have a word here. And he goes, oh, okay, let me come sit down. You go ahead. That guy gets up and they begin their word from Yahuwah. And then when they get done, then he gets back up and goes, okay, great, thank you, Yahuwah. And then he'd be talking some more, and then, I have a word from Yahuwah. You see that very much?
We do it, but it's a little more controlled.
Yeah.
We have guys every Sunday get up and it goes through this one man. They go tell them what they've seen, what they want to share, and then I guess he judges whether they're allowed to say it or not.
Well, see, there you go. There's the problem.
Yeah,
Which
but
I've never-
if you didn't have that, you'd have people getting up there saying a bunch of stuff.
Well,
that
you
wasn't-
don't. Then you don't trust Yahuwah. He didn't say nothing there. See, once again, you're now making up your own authority. You're not a disciple anymore. Well, if we didn't do that, do it your way then. Well, do it.
Yeah, but
do it the way that y'all want to do it.
You would have a mess in a church if you let everybody get up
You're
there.
not trusting Yahuwah.
You think you'd smack them down.
You're not trusting Yahuwah.
I think you'd have arguments if you let anybody get up and say anything.
Well, then when you need to go ahead and go into 1st or 2nd Corinthians, get you a black marker and erase it.
Redact.
Redo it. I didn't say it. See, that's what I'm talking about. I didn't write it. That's what the apostle wrote. He said, everyone can speak in their own order. Yahuwah gives one person a word. Let the person talking stop. Let them say them. And everybody has their own word from Yahuwah. We are all part of a body. You're not trusting Yahuwah. You're saying what man says. You're walking in the world. You're telling me that the master does not have the ability and the power to control his own body and to allow things. If you do the wrong thing, if you're walking in this, guess what? You remember Ananias and Sapphira?
What happened?
Maybe wolves get in there though.
Wolves do. Wolves do get. Do you remember
It's wrong
Ananias?
words.
Do you remember Ananias?
Yeah,
What happened?
yeah, they died.
They died.
killed.
They died.
They decided to
Come
come up
false
with this
witness or
scheme.
what?
Yes,
Lied to the spirit.
they lied,
Yeah.
and they came in and did the wrong thing, and they just dropped dead. The guy dropped dead in front of Peter. And they carried him out, and the wife came up, and Peter said, "So tell me, what happened with you and your husband?" And she told the same lie he did,
Dropped
and
dead.
she dropped it. Okay? You're not trusting Yahuwah. I know this is a hard step to take. And it won't work in an organized building a lot of times like that. That's why he put us on the outside of it. All right?
Well, I've never seen him turn down anybody who had some prophecy.
Yeah.
That this was laid on me last night or in a dream last night, and he lets them, he's always going to speak.
The thing is that the way it's worded in the scripture is this. And this is the way it should really work, and it should work more this way in our group actually. Except I want it to work this way, but a lot of times no one has a lot that they want to say. All right? I want it to work like this. I'm waiting for the day when it works more like, and it does work some. We all do, different people say words, but the way the scripture points out that it should work is like this. My words from Yahuwah should impart to you Yahuwah being able to tell you something while you're sitting there. Okay? So here's the way it would have to work. The preacher has to get up, and whoever's in charge of the meeting will have to get up and start speaking the word of Yahuwah. As he speaks, so this will mean in the middle of Pastor David's sermon, he might be 10 minutes in. As he's speaking the word of Yahuwah, someone sitting there should have all of a sudden go, "Oh, I see. Yahuwah's showing me this by what you're saying. I need to share with this. Yahuwah just revealed something to me as you spoke." Now, Pastor David's supposed to sit down. Go, come on, get my number, quick. Okay, go. And then that person's supposed to share what Yahuwah, and it says everyone can speak. Everyone. Anyone, everyone. All can have a word from Yahuwah. Now, I realize, just like you're saying, in the world, in the natural world, you're asking for chaos. In the natural world, you're asking something undependable. But is your Father in heaven undependable?
And plus, it might go past 12 o'clock.
And it might.
And then be late for lunch.
Yeah.
Now, I'm not trying to be hard with this, but I'm trying to, look, I want Him. That's all I care about. This is not about me. This is not about what I think or anything like that. All right? Whatever way someone wants to do it, you know what? He can still work through man's not listening to him sometimes. But it becomes very hard, and if you do it long enough, you can find out what happens by what happened to Israel. If you get hard enough on him, he's going to walk away and leave you to whatever comes. And then, when you're all crying, and then he'll come back and say, "Well, I told you." And then he can restore you even then. But sometimes he's like, "You want to do it your way? I'll walk away." Yeah, you're going to have to come running after me because I'm going to be in another city preaching. And when you decide that, oh, I just messed up and I just missed it, then maybe you'll come running after me and catch me there. And I'll love you then, and we'll have a good time. Yeah, it ain't because he don't love you. It's just because he's got things to do. And he ain't going to sit there and fuss with you but so long when you want to organize it and do it your way. And that's why you've got all these denominations and different things. Because they organize it and they're doing it their way, and it does not agree with what he said to do. Y'all cannot read Corinthians and tell me that that's the way it works. I've been in a lot of churches, and I've never seen it work that way.
I remember in White Harvest, I know it's Harvest now, where somebody spoke in tongues and somebody got up.
That happens
Well, hang on.
sometimes.
This person gave something, and then the next person said something, and then the pastor actually said, "I believe that second interpretation was the one God meant." So I was like, wow, they just called that first guy, kind of like, he just got up and said some bull crap.
Yeah, I mean, I've seen the little thing. Here's the way it normally works in the churches that I've been in, including Harvest, which is you have your praise and worship time, and as that's going on or towards the end of it, you'll have sometimes people that get up and have a word, or they'll speak in tongues, and someone will interpret, and then all this will go through its stuff, and then once the main preaching gets in,
Everybody's silent.
that's it. You're done. Once your main preacher steps up there and starts talking, you had it in. If you have a word then, you just better write it down for yourself because you're not going to get a chance to speak it out.
Years ago, when Kevin was the preacher, that mess that went on, a man, nobody knew anything about it that I knew of, but a man gave a word during the sermon that there was sin in the house. And the preacher immediately said, there is no sin in this house. This house does not have sin in it. And it wasn't but just a short time later we found out that he was.
What? I mean, that's crazy because we're all sinners. So I mean, that's insane for the preacher to ever say there's no
He was
sin.
being very defensive.
Yeah, I feel like he
Well, he
did.
was defensive because he was guilty.
Sure, but dang, gone. That's insane.
All right, let's see.
You know, Artie, you said synagogue. You take that to mean established churches and church buildings. I've always thought of synagogue as synonymous with non-Messiah believing
Right.
places, because the synagogues were where the Jewish people were, and they stayed in their synagogues even though Jesus was Jewish,
Right.
but they didn't accept the Messiah. That's what I've always thought of as a synagogue.
I
So
thought
when
of
it
it that
says,
way most
I'll
of the
throw
time,
you
too.
out of the synagogues, I think of that they'll throw you out of places where they don't believe in the Messiah,
Right.
which I don't take that to mean all churches. Just my thoughts.
Right.
What I've always thought of as a synagogue.
Right.
And I definitely hear you what you're saying there, but I also think, like Artie's saying, if you go and preach it, this is what you're really supposed to be doing. This is not what most churches are doing at all. This is not, most Christians are going to say, no, I'm supposed to be prosperous here. I'm supposed to have $100,000 in the bank. I'm supposed to be driving a car and working 40 hours a week and just think about God on Sundays. I mean, if you're preaching that there's, hey, no, it's actually a lot more difficult, road to toe than that. This is what you're really supposed to be doing. We're focusing on all the wrong things. Because, I mean, you're talking about burning everything down, I mean, take, the snares that yes. We know that, gambling, pornography, drugs, things like that. But, all right, like, I'm day trading now. I spend way more time day trading and do research in stocks than I do reading the Bible. You know what I'm saying? So, should I burn that down? I mean, that's definitely, if you say what's important to you is what you spend time on, then the Bible's not important to me. And I want it to be important to me.
Right.
But it just isn't, I spend more time playing Xbox than reading the Bible, that's for sure.
But that's like I told you, I could do all the same things. I've done over my fair share of video games, television watching, movie watching, football watching, whatever kind of things that anyone else has done, I'm there. And I try to tell that to Bear. I said, Bear, I'm only trying to warn you about certain things because I know.
Sure.
I've been there. He's shown me things about it. He's actually shown me things that are so scary that I hardly don't want to think about them. And it's all about what this world can do. It's all about what this world is doing, the way it's dictating to people. Now, you were talking about the synagogue. Oh, go ahead. Oh, that's fine. I'll tell you it again when you get back.
Well, hold on for a minute. So, I only get to see you here recently, things like that. So, have you removed, like, what do you spend your time doing now?
I spend my time on,
I know you work. You got
I
a
go-
family, you
I go
support
to
your
work.
family. I know you do that. You work hard.
I don't watch TV. I spend my time, a lot of times, making up little pictures with scriptures on them, putting them on a Facebook account. The Facebook account that I actually use I'm connected with a bunch of other people.
I don't think I'm friends with you on
Yahuwah
Facebook.
people.
Send me a friend
Okay.
request. too. Sorry, go ahead.
And
Yeah.
so it's all Yahuwah people talking about Yahuwah. That's what they're spending their time doing. And talking to Bear and Donna about the stuff. And that's what I actually do.
That's cool.
I'm all about doing him. I actually have a blog that I write in.
Do you really?
And I blog a lot of stuff
Can you
sometimes.
send me that too?
Yeah.
All right. Well, cook me on Facebook and send it to me. Because I argue with people on the internet. I argue with liberals on the internet all the time. Because I'm a libertarian. And it's useless. So maybe I'll try and
Right.
at least dedicate that part of the time I waste during the day to at least this.
Yeah. Start somewhere with set just a little bit of time off for the Lord.
I gave you that book.
Well, I did. I read. Mom gave me the Bible, and you read it in 365 days, and I did that. And I tell you what, I really did enjoy that. And it you know, because like Artie brings up stuff, and I don't remember, and it'll say, I remember reading that, you know, but once I finished the Bible, I was kind of like, okay, I've done that now. Where that's not what I need to do. I understand what you're saying. Just trying. I just guess I need
put it
to
on your schedule.
schedule it. Yeah.
If it ain't 10 minutes starting off.
Sure. But I fall into that trap. There's always time. And see, my problem is I work 52 hours a week, but I'm sleeping some of that time. You know, I only work 10 days a month, really. But so I'm always thinking, man, I got plenty of time. I got plenty of time. I got plenty of time. And that's nothing ever gets done. I'm terrible. I put the pro in procrastination. I'll tell you that.
I'm pretty bad.
All right, she's back. What were you going to say about the synagogue?
Oh, I was just saying, yeah, the synagogue, the reason I always thought about synagogue kind of the same way you were saying. And then I got to trying to think, well, how would that apply to me? What can that apply to me? There's not synagogues around. And I thought, well, what was a synagogue? What actually was a synagogue? It wasn't the temple. Okay?
Right.
The temple was something he said to build.
Right.
The synagogues were things they just had set up all around where they taught all the doctrines that they wanted to teach. And they weren't even the established place he said to worship, which was the temple. And so they were like all these little buildings throughout all the little towns that they set up to teach their doctrines. That's what it was about, to teach their doctrines all through every little town, all over Israel. All right? And so maybe it does have something to do with believing Messiah or not. But
Because he
looking
said
at it
it would be kicked out
compared,
of the temple, because that's where he said to worship.
yeah. And so the temple at Jerusalem, that was another established place that kind of changed. Because he came in and when he cast everything out and he said, you know what? You're not getting it. I'm casting all this out because I'm talking about the body. And you filled the body up with this stuff. It's not this building that I'm trying to cleanse. It's you I'm trying to cleanse. I don't care what's in this physical building. Matter of fact, he already knew that. He said, I'm telling you the truth. There's not one block of this building that will be left one upon the stone standing upon another. And then it says he spoke of his body and he told them as much. It's my body I'm talking about. It's the body. It's my body. You filled my Father's house with these abominations. So that physical temple in itself wasn't even the thing that he was concerned with. It's the body. It's not that you can't meet in a physical building. It's not that you can't do that at all. I guess if you're capable of doing that, if you did it in the right way, you could accomplish it and be fine. It's not the physical buildings that I'm that concerned with. It's the mentalities within the buildings. It's what is being able to flow versus not flow. It's what people's minds are on. Everybody's mind, when you even in the most kind of liberal church I've ever been to, as far as time and allowing YHUH to just kind of do what he wants, it's still organized enough to where after a certain amount of time, people are going to start getting up and leaving if you keep them there too long. Yeah, they're not going to just sit there forever because they're going to go, I got to go. Okay?
Football game started.
Yeah, that tells you something. If there's people sitting in a building and they're so organized and their lives are so organized into what man is doing and what the world is doing, that they're going to start watching their clock even if they, I've given them an extra 2 hours.
This guy, I heard, he said, my church got this new preacher, the old preacher retired, and said, he's a good preacher. Young fella, said, he's a good preacher. He gets a little long-winded sometimes. And he said, one day he got a little long-winded and run all the way over. So going out the door, the preacher was greeting everybody,
Yeah.
thanks for coming. And he out there and he was shaking hands and said, did anybody ever tell you that they could sit there and listen to you preach all day long? And the preacher said, well, no, they haven't. He said, well, what gives you that idea?
That's pretty good.
All right, let's try to finish up some of this here chapter. That's funny. All right. When they persecuted one city, flee to another, for truly I tell you, you shall not by no means go over all the cities of Israel before the Ben of Adam comes. A disciple is not above his teacher, nor a servant above his master. It is enough for the disciple to become like his teacher, and the servant like his master. Now that says a lot there, that one thing. You want to become like your teacher and like your master. You want to become like him. Okay? like him. So look at him, and that's what you want to become like. If they have called the master of the house Beelzebub, how much more those are of his household? Therefore fear not them, for whatsoever is covered shall be revealed, and whatsoever is hidden shall be made known. What I say to you in the dark, speak in the light, and what you hear in the ear, proclaim on the housetops. And do not fear those that kill the body and are unable to kill the soul, but rather fear him which is able to destroy both soul and body in Gehenna. Are not 2 sparrows sold? And this is the wonderful part right here. One of them anyway. Are not 2 sparrows sold for a copper coin? And not one of them falls to the ground without your Father. Even the hairs of your head are all numbered. So do not fear. You are worth more than many sparrows. Everyone, therefore, who shall confess me before men, him I shall also confess before my Father who is in heaven. But everyone who denies me before men, him I also shall deny before my Father in heaven. Now listen to what he says. Listen close. He's the master. Do not think that I've come to bring peace on the earth. I did not come to bring peace, but a sword. For I have come to bring division. His point is to divide you. From where?
The world.
The world. Okay, this is a wonderful thing he's telling you actually here. I haven't come to bring peace in this whole world. I've come to divide something out. I've come to make something different. To make something a separate thing. Alright? I'm going to have a thing here and a thing here. This thing is going to be mine. That thing not mine. A man shall be against his father, a daughter against her mother, a daughter-in-law against her mother-in-law. A man's enemies shall be those of his own household. He who loves father or mother more than me is not worthy of me. How often do you really hear that preached in a church? I mean, it might be read, but I mean, really, I ain't saying it's never preached. I'm not saying it's never preached. I'm just saying, how often is that something that someone would stand up with all the mothers and fathers and sons and everything sitting there and say, if you love any of these more than him,
It would not be politically correct.
you're not worthy of me. And he who loves son or daughter more than me is not worthy of me. This is about the strongest thing you can get over to humans. Okay? It doesn't get no stronger than that. The most things that we have bonds with in the entire world is mother, father, son, daughter. Okay? That's the things that usually stays with someone longer than even their wife or their husband. Okay? Which is supposed to be the strongest bond. But your mother, father, son, daughter, because they're the longest running relationship that you will have in the world. There's nothing longer than that most of the time on average. A wife is really long, but mother, father, son, daughter, that's the longest. Okay, you're going to have that longer than anything else in your life. Not worthy of me. He who loves son, daughter more than me is not worthy of me. He who does not take up his cross and follow after me is not worthy of me. He who has found his life, now think about this. If you found your life. Most people have found their life. They have their life, they like their life, they want their life, and they enjoy their life, and that's what they think about is their life. Just like Mark said, they got their $100,000 in the bank, they got the this, they got the that. We've all done it, we've all lived it, we've all been there, and we're all still doing it somewhat. Alright? That's where most people live. They found their life. Or they're endeavoring to gain some life that they think they want. Okay? Maybe they haven't found their life yet, but they're looking at the world and they're endeavoring to reach the life that they want in this world. One way or the other, they still have their life in their eyesight, don't they? They either have it and are happy with it, or they're wanting to get there. That's all about the same thing, having your life. He who has found his life shall lose it, and he that has lost his life for my sake shall find it. That's what we've just been talking about. That was from the very beginning what he basically told them. Don't take your money, Don't take your 2 pair of underwear. Don't take your extra sandals. Don't take a staff. The staff was a big thing. It helped you out a lot. Okay, that's the way you can defend yourself. There's all kinds of things a staff at that day would do. All right, it did all kinds of stuff. Roads weren't exactly, like they are today. You hop in your car and just head down the street. So he didn't take nothing. You're losing your life at that point. You're stepping out with only one thing to depend on. That's his word. What he just told you. I told you you're worthy of your hire. I told you if you're willing to do this, then I'll make sure, and your Father in heaven will make sure that you're taken care of. If this is where you're willing to step and where you're going to walk from day to day. That means you're not afraid.
The worker deserves a pay.
Mm-hmm. He who receives you receives me. And he who receives me receives him that sent me. Whosoever receives a prophet in the name of a prophet shall receive a prophet's reward. And he who receives a righteous one in the name of a righteous one shall receive a righteous one's reward. And whosoever gives one of these little ones a cup of water, a cold cupful only in the name of a disciple, truly I say unto you, by no means shall lose his reward.
Want some water?
I could use some, actually. Thank you.
Let me get you some water.
It's all about what we started talking in the beginning in Romans. You have to renew your mind to this. Your mind's going to reject this at first. Your mind's going to reject a lot of what he says at first. It rejects it based on what it knows in the world. Okay? Because it's conformed to this world. Understand, you're already conformed to the world. Most everybody here. You don't have a problem with that. So the way you normally think, the way you raised to think, the way you thought most of your entire lifetime, that's conformed. It's just you only have to work at it. It's just there. Transformed. That's a different kind of word. Conform is easy. To conform is not hard. Because it's going to go with what most people consider the natural flow of this world. Conforming just goes along. How do you conform? You sit in the boat, put the paddles in the boat, in the river, and you're conforming. Did you know that? Because that boat's going to go where the river goes, don't it? But you know what transforming is? Picking them paddles up and going the other way. Now you're doing something. You're not conforming to the way that river flows. You're now being transformed. You're not doing what the natural flow of what things are anymore. You're against it. And basically what he is saying is not only you can have some paddles, but I'll give you a motor to put on the thing. Okay? I'll be your power. I'll be what it is that keeps you going. I'll be behind you. If they come against you, they come against me. Now think about that. Do you know how they got gangs in the world, right? Did you want to say something?
He's not a conformer.
He's not a conformer?
No.
Well, that's good. Very good.
He's not.
He's
Well,
never.
everybody can.
You want to elaborate
Man, I'm
on
so
that?
glad I ain't got to drive out there that way.
Everybody knows Mark knows he's not.
What?
Yeah.
I ain't never seen a traffic out there. And I can't drive no more. It
Oh.
scares me to drive at nighttime, especially when it's raining like
Oh,
that.
yeah.
Mm.
You know how they got gangs? And gangs got all these little packs and these blood packs and the big real gangs, they like put people in for life. And what happens if you mess with one of the gang members?
That's what I'm on.
You mess with them all, don't you? They kill people for that. You mess with one of our boys. Alright, we're going to drive by you, we're going to shoot you, we're going to shoot your family, whatever gets in the way. Yahuwah is that way a little bit in righteousness, though. If you mess with me, you mess with him, is what he's saying in all this. That's why I want you to understand, you don't need to be worried about all this other stuff. Because I got your back. I've got all the big guns you need. I've got all the weapons you need. I've got everything you need. And if you do it my way, if you will let me transform you into walking my way, and you be my disciple, then I will bring out the big guns. When they come after you, they come after me. And when they come after me, they're coming after the wrong preacher. Alright? This is what he's trying to get over to you. See, your carnal, natural mind wants to be afraid, which is why I kept saying, don't be afraid. Don't be afraid of them. Don't be afraid of them that can kill the body. That ain't nothing. I can raise it up. They can't kill it unless we say so. Unless we agree, unless it's your time, unless you and me, if we're in unity together, they can't touch you because it's not your time. You see, that's different now all of a sudden. Remember we talked about it a little while ago about they couldn't touch him because it wasn't his time? And we were talking about how funny that sounds? They tried to take up stones to stone him, but it wasn't his time. And we're going like, what? How's that a protection? What protection is that? It's not your time. How's that stop stones? Because it's not my time. You can't touch me until it's my time. Just that simple. There's no ands if. There's no mess ups. There's no oopsie doops. It's like you don't touch me until it's time. Well, guess who else follows under that when you become his disciple? You, me, all of us. You can't touch me till it's our time. That's where we should be. That's where we should walk. See, there's a complete lack of fear of death, which is what bondage is, it says. It says that men were in bondage their whole life because they feared death. Now he's trying to give you the solution to all that. And saying, I've showed you the way. Here's the way it looks. They can't touch me until it's time. I walk where I want to walk. I speak the word of my Father. I do his will only, and the world couldn't overcome me. Now look, he did the will of the Father, exactly what we've been talking about. He walked around. He didn't take extra money for himself. He didn't worry about a money back. He didn't worry about someone stealing out his money back. Didn't never say a word about it the whole ministry, and somebody sitting there stealing the whole time. He'd always just give the whole thing away to somebody walking on the road. Judas, give the bag to him. And you know that had to burn Judas when that happened. Literally. And I can guarantee you it happened. Because on the night of Passover, when Judas went out to betray him, the disciples thought that he had told them to either go pick up something else they needed for Passover or to go give to the poor. So that's what they were used to. In other words, that's normal. Where's Judas going? He must have told me to go give the money away. Now that, Judas, no wonder, That's what the whole thing was about to him, was money. And that shows you a wicked heart. Because he was more concerned with the money than depending on the very one that he sat there and saw feed 4,000 men with a few loaves and fishes. And you're going to worry about money? How dare you? You just saw him provide. You saw him provide for all his disciples. All those other ones that followed around with him all the time. It was 12 that were the closest inner circle, but there was 70 more. There was women. There was hundreds of people that showed up all the time. They were YHUH groupies. They just followed him.
They were the gang.
Yes.
The YHUH gang.
And then you're concerned with a little bit of money. So you see his example of how to walk. When he needed a donkey, he just said, you know what? Disciples, come here. He called a couple of his disciples. He said, go down to, and this is not going to be accurate, so forgive me for this. Go down to that first corner, take a right, go to the end of that street. You can see a guy down there, and you see a place, and tell him that you can see a donkey and a colt tied up down there. And you go to the guy and you say, the master has need of them. And he's going to give them to you, and you bring them back. Huh? This is the equivalent of me saying, Mark, we need a car. I know we usually don't drive a car. We walk everywhere. I want you to go down Jerry Road. I want you to take a right, go to the end of Jerry Road. You can see that house right there. You can see a car, a blue car sitting in the front yard. You can see the guy standing there, and go tell him the master has need of it. Bring it back to me. That's what the equivalent is to that. What, did he set it up? I mean, how did this happen? The guy's heart was listening to YHUH, wasn't it?
We're not sure. We don't go into detail on how they approached the man that had the donkey.
Yes, I know this.
Like one walk on one side, one walk on the other.
So Ray wants to go with Mark to get the car. Maybe
Y'all want to
two
go.
of them are better than
Y'all want to go with the carnal mind. Okay? Alright, that man's heart was listening to YHUH. And he was prepared when the master had need of something. Alright? This is the way that we're supposed to be walking. Now I know it's, once again, I know I know that this, y'all have been pushed to the brink of wanting someone to believe. Alright? I take this to, I don't take it there, I shouldn't say that, forgive me. It's taken to this spot every week, it seems like, to where, are you going to believe this or not? Are you going to be willing to go here or not? Are you going to be willing to accept this, or are you going to fight it and conform to the world? That's where he's taking us every week, week after week after week after week. And you don't know how much sometimes I sit down and I think about, you know, what might be talked about the next week, and I'm like, you know, can it just be, maybe just, can it be easy this week maybe? I mean, that's what I'm like, can, you know, something just, can I just,
Something like.
yeah, and it don't go there. I'm sorry. I literally think about this during the week sometimes. It's like, can I just, I don't know what else, but I mean, I love it. I love what he's given. But it's like I know that when I'm pushing this way, when it's coming out this way, it's like this is the place that people want to like kind of cringe away from and go with this. They don't do it in their front mind where they're thinking about it. They do it in their back mind where they're digging at it and don't know they're digging at it. Because they keep going back to that conformity. I do too. You want to keep conforming to the world. You want to keep, well, I can't do that. I can't go that way. I got to depend on the world to give me something. I got to depend on the world for this, the world for that. No, that's what he's been trying to tell us. I don't want you dependent on the world. I keep trying to get you to step away from the world and stop depending on the world. I want you to be so undependent on the world that you can go where I tell you to go, when I tell you to go. Yet nobody ever walks there too much. Nobody ever gets there. Do you think it's just because he don't want to call you to do nothing? Is that really the reason you think you don't ever hear him telling you, I want you to go do something? No, it's because you're bound by this carnal world. It tells you, and so as long as it's telling you, you're never going to hear him. As long as this world's dictating to us what it is and how we need to be, you're not going to hear him tell you, I want you to go to Africa next week. I want you to go to Israel next week. Minister to some of my physical Israelis. It's last days. They need to receive me. So I need you in Israel next week. I need you preaching on the street in front of a synagogue. Okay? You want to gripe about there being no synagogues? Fine, I'll send you where a synagogue, a real one is. And then you can fulfill that scripture about they persecute you. Okay? Why don't we hear that? Because we're conformed. And as long as you're conformed, you're never going to be transformed. Alright? You're not going to hear him when you're conformed to this world and you're trusting in him. It's just that simple. I'm not going to hear him tell me. You're not going to hear him tell you. Nobody's going to hear him tell anything. You're going to walk away like that rich young ruler. That's a big lesson. Why? Because that guy trusted in his riches. That's why it says it's hard on rich people. He said all things are possible with Elohim. He says, so don't count anything out. I can save to the uttermost. Even the ones that are hardest to save, I can get to them. He said, but I'm telling you, it's hard on a rich man because he trusts in his riches. Alright? He trusts in this physical world. He's conformed to the ideas that this physical world gives out. It says, well, if I got this, this, and this, I'm okay. But if I don't got this, this, and this, I'm not okay. And that conformity makes you impossible to be transformed as long as you're being conformed.
Because I think, what does the word conform sound like? Comfort. And what you're comfortable with. And if the world tells you, you got money, you're comfortable. You don't have much to worry about.
That's what the word means. The couch, the cushion on the couch is a very conforming thing. It conforms to your shape. It conforms to you sitting down on it. And I think she might actually argue that
I was
back about
thinking the same
this
thing.
particular couch, but a good couch. Okay?
not a good couch.
A pillow, it conforms. That's what a conform is. Transform takes work, okay? I tell you what transforming is more like. We covered what conforming was, but I never actually talked about transforming. I just now got it, and I understand what transforming is. You know how to transform something?
Change.
There's a couple things. Iron gets transformed. Steel gets transformed.
Refining.
Okay? It gets hot, it gets beat. Okay? A diamond is transformed. You know what a diamond is?
Cold, winter pressure.
Cold, it takes pressure really well. Okay? It's a piece of coal that took the pressure really well. And it turned into a diamond. That's transformed. Transformed isn't something that's easy and natural. It's something that takes, it's hard.
Probably not comfortable.
And he said, I will refine you. That's actually his words. And we're talking about, he's comparing it to this furnace and this work of iron and the way you would work even clay maybe. It's not conforming. It's like, you're going to do what I'm making you do. I'm going to transform you. And the way he transformed you, it says by his word. What we just covered tonight. You begin to think about that. What is that? What is that? That's a different way of thinking than I'm more used to, isn't it? That's a different way than what the world told me to think. That's not the same as what I'm used to. And we can do it in every single area. Whether it's finances, whether it's sickness and disease, whether it's your spiritual life. You can conform spiritually to the world. In your inner man, you conform to what the world does. What does the world do? We're now, I'm going to tell you a little bit more. It seems like everyone's been taking this thing about the 5 physical senses, and then the emotion, and then the reason, and then all that, out of that is born self. So you've got the 7, and from them is born self. Do you know the physical kingdoms of the world have done that? In the beginning. Way back before there were large kingdoms, like way back before Babel, it was all about the 5 physical senses. Okay? The body just was basically what I need. What do I need? Food, warmth, everything. My body tells me that's what I get. That's the most simplest thing. After that, emotion began to reign. If you remember all the kingdoms, if you look at some, and you can actually see a difference, because when you look at these kingdoms, you go, what? I don't get it. And there's a reason you don't get it, because you're not in that emotion realm anymore. All your old kingdoms were run by emotion. So they got all their physical needs fulfilled. Right? The kings and the people in charge, they had everything they needed. They had servants to make them warm, to bring them food, and they just lived on their emotion. Bring me 500 prisoners. And how about this? Oh, this will be fun. Put wax on them and light them on fire. Get some lions. It was all about emotion. There was no reason, wasn't it? No reason whatsoever. Can you get reason out of any of that? And you look at that and you don't understand, what were them guys thinking? Do you? And there's a reason. That realm represented the emotion that was formed from the 5 physical senses. So they were in the emotion kingdom. That's the way they ruled, emotion. It went all the way up into the kings of England even, and even during that time, guess what? Oh, just whatever. Let's draw and quarter them. Let's just whatever we want. Whatever I want. My realm, I'm the king, I get to do what I want. That's the way they ruled. And then something amazing happened. There was a new thing that came about. And it was called reason. And it came along with the Renaissance. Began this time of reason that began to reign over men's hearts. Okay? And they began to walk in reason. And so logic was dictating. It wasn't about just you having fun. It's like, that's not logical. That's not good reason for that. You just can't kill people for no reason and do this. And it carried on into its pinnacle, which was with the birth of the United States. And that was called the Enlightenment. And it was the ultimate idea of reason. That we are going to be logical about everything, and we are going to walk in reason. We're not going to allow emotion to run us. We're not going to allow our 5 physical senses to rule us. We are going to rule on reason, and we want to be logical. And it carried all the way over through the Enlightenment into your modern age and medicine and science and the age of reason. And now that age is actually ended. Did you know that? No, you see its remnants and you think it's still here, but it's not here. It's not about reason anymore. It's about something else. It's about the final thing.
Have it your way.
It's about self now. It's no longer reason. The masses aren't being ruled by reason. It's nothing about reason. There's no reason. Does not dictate any of this that's going on. Reason does not dictate the finances of this world anymore. It's unreasonable. Reason does not dictate what people are striving to do and what they're going after. Reason has lost its control now. There's your realms. That's your beast. It's in Revelation. And now you're in that final one, which is self-rule. It's all about self. It's about living for whatever you want, at whatever cost it takes. If I got to whatever to do to get it, and just to make myself happy. And it's hard to break. I see it. I see it in my kids. I see it in everywhere. And you try to convince someone that, it's fun. It's just fun. But yeah, Yahuwah doesn't like it. Well, I don't know why he wouldn't like it. It's just fun. Well, it's not in his will. Well, it's fun.
Which is basically the concept of humanism, right?
Mm-hmm. And it centers around self.
To the self, right.
So reason has really died in the masses. You don't kind of think about it because it's the remnants of it still out there in science and medicine. You see that idea of wanting to have reason. But in the masses, it's done.
I see what you're saying, because I definitely think we are slowly but surely removing self-accountability, self-responsibility, repercussions for your actions. You can have 5 kids and not have a job now because you're still going to be comfortable.
And see, that's what it says, the son of perdition. It says, if you read in Daniel, this prince, it says he exalts himself above everything. It's self. And it says he doesn't worship the gods of his fathers, but he worships this new God that he makes for himself, and it's all about self. And it's about force. It's about him being able to gain what it does to please himself. It's self-awareness. It's self-everything. It's not about the basic needs like it used to be. It's not about emotion. It's about self. It says that self is born out of all of them. So what you're really getting is that you take all these things that have reigned, 5 physical senses, emotion, and reason, and you combine them into one thing, and that becomes self. And so you're going to get the remnants of everything. You're going to get all these remnants of reason and emotion and the 5 physical senses, and now it springs forth this new terrible thing, which is called self. And it's a thing that has nothing to do with Yahuwah, does not acknowledge him, does not acknowledge his will, does not acknowledge anything but self.
And you know what altar self worships at? Self worships at the altar of knowledge.
Because they think they don't need God.
Self-knowledge,
Right.
yeah. It's
Self-knowledge.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Yep. That's what the original altar
which is what
was.
the internet
Right.
is all about. Is I can go there. I can get all the knowledge, everything that I need. I don't need to go anywhere else. I can just go to the internet.
Right.
Look up anything I need. And I'm guilty of it myself.
Yeah, but I don't like the idea of thinking that knowledge is not necessarily a bad thing. It can be a bad thing.
Self-knowledge, yeah.
If
Self-knowledge,
your
right.
desire to say, I need God, then yeah, it's a bad thing. But I think knowledge in general, I think we should all be striving to...
Knowledge in him is where you need to stay.
I agree with you there.
It's his knowledge in him. Everything comes from him. Okay? The physics of the world, all that, it's all him. He all made all that. So it's not the idea of knowledge itself that's evil. It's the idea of self-knowledge, and really the thing that we're getting at is self-knowledge aware of good and evil. Because that was the original idea, the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. They became self-aware of their own knowledge of good and evil. It no longer had to do with Yahuwah. Like I said, oh, it's fine. I think it's fine. Yahuwah should, no, it's self. That's self. Oh, I think it's bad. Maybe Yahuwah thinks it's bad. It don't even matter. I think it's bad. That's the problem with where you get with the very beginning. Who told you were naked? Well, I did. And then I decided it was bad. Okay? Well, you just defined your whole self, not based on anything he told you. That's where you're in trouble now.
Because we use our God, that's our
Yeah.
Yahuwah.
So it's like you've just decided you've decided what it is, and then you decided what it means. There was two choices that had to be made. One, I'm naked, this isn't the way I should be. Or that's actually the second part, which is this isn't the way I should be. I'm naked? Well, he didn't say you were naked. You know? He thought you were fine, so apparently you weren't naked in some form, shape, or form. Whatever he thought it was at that point, it was okay. So you didn't have a naked problem. And then you decided that it was a problem. That like, oh no, I need to be different than what he made me. I'm now not what, nobody told you. He didn't tell you that. You just became self-aware. You just decided on your own what was good and what was evil. That's the mystery of that tree of knowledge and good and evil. It's knowledge, not based with.
Then how come little kids like Luke, I used to give him baths and everything, it's fine, but now, Mimi, don't look at me. It's like something happened.
He just now has that knowledge. He just gained that knowledge. It's a natural part of life now. You can't, and particularly when you're growing up and everybody you look at's got clothes on.
Yeah.
And you're like, oh, well, yeah.
Or somebody could have said something to him, like a teacher.
And
put
we
an
do,
idea.
yeah. It's a learned process, and even that development, I think, I'm sorry, you finish what you're
that's
saying.
fine.
Even that, I think, development is going to show us something about the mystery of that tree.
That's what I thought.
I mean, it's a part of that process. They were born, they were unaware, they were unashamed. That's the way a child is born. They're unashamed, they don't care, they think if they just run around and it's all fine. You know? The first awareness is that, oh, I am naked. It is something different about me. But there's no shame in it in the beginning if you recognize that. They'll go, ah, ah,
Yeah.
and you're like, come get your clothes on. And they're like, no, it's funny. That's
Mine did that.
Yeah.
it's like Bear used to think it was the funniest thing to be naked, so there was no
Run through the
shame.
house.
So the first knowledge is that, oh, I'm naked. The next knowledge that comes is, oh, this is a shameful thing to
You
do.
got to conform to the world because the world has rules.
Also, it's conformation.
Yeah.
It is conforming, and
You
it's a
have to.
natural process now because of the sin that took place in the beginning. But see, that's why I keep telling you, everything you can see, if you look at it, will teach you him. And so even children look exactly like that image that we get from the garden. You see that same image. First I'm naked, oh, and I ain't even ashamed. It's funny. So I learn I'm naked, and then the next thing I learn is, oh, it's a shame. And
So if Eve had never eaten that apple, we'd all still be naked, right?
but it would be
We don't
fine.
Know it.
Running around, right?
It would just be,
Somebody
What
else
Aware
would
of
have
it,
ate
right?
it
so,
if she hadn't.
anyway.
Right.
But you're talking about that knowledge thing. Mark said knowledge is not necessarily a bad thing, and then you followed with, you've got, sciences and stuff like that, and that's good to know. But really, it all comes down to, remember Jesus walked on water.
You're right. Yeah, you're right.
Okay? That defies the law of gravity,
Yeah.
which
You're right.
is a natural law
Mhm.
that God put in place. But we still have to think like he thinks,
Yep.
which is, I can do anything. And that
Push out.
may override
Right.
anything I have previously
You're right.
told you is the truth.
So you're saying if we take the knowledge that we think we know and put it before,
And exactly,
Well,
you
you know,
still
I got
got to
you.
put
I
a
got you.
higher knowledge, his knowledge, of the present
That's a good point.
above a learned knowledge.
That's a very good point. I'm glad you brought it up. Yep. The knowledge is there, and he made physics, and he actually talked about physics. He said he's the one that designed the way things work. In detail, he talks about the way the waters fall and the way they go up from the ocean and come back the way they came. And
But he's reversed many of those in many of his
he
miracles.
set the bounds of this ocean so they cannot pass above what it can go. All that's related to gravity and the way things work. But like you said, that can't be, even though that's knowledge he's given you, you must still honor him as YHUH. And he says, you know what? If I say that I can override this, I made the rules. I can manipulate them. You know, so I know how to make the program do what I want it to do.
The
If I need it to-
shadow, that one, I can't remember which guy it was in the
10
Old
degrees
Testament.
back on the
Yeah,
shadow.
the shadow did something that wasn't supposed to be able
There was
to do.
two things that happened that are just, still, those are just
I think
mind-boggling.
the flood of the whole earth was really against
Yeah.
natural principles of what he had originally put in place.
He made the sundial go back 10 degrees, so think about what that entailed. And then he made the sun to stop in the sky for about the whole space of a day. So think about what that took. I mean, you realize what had to be overridden to make that happen? Because, I mean, if you just stop the earth, you're going to destroy everything. I mean, this thing, you know how fast the earth is spinning? Like, what is it? I want to say like 23,000 miles per second or something.
Something crazy, yeah.
It's a huge number that Earth is spinning at, and if you just stop the sun, you've stopped a whole lot of stuff. You know, and that should just make all the water and everything else just go. You know, I mean, it's just so even 10 degrees in a whole day, that was just a bigger miracle than what anybody would ever think would have to be overridden in the natural laws of things. So that's a very good point. The fact that even though you
Even
know
that,
those
you can't
things,
rely on the
you can't rely on those because he's the one that made those, and he's like, if we need to do something different to accomplish what we need to accomplish against it, then we just override that for a few minutes. Yeah.
Well, speaking of the flood, this is a little bit off topic, but just I heard y'all say that. Colleen was telling me it had never rained before the flood.
Right.
Is that right? Is that what it says in the
A
Bible?
mist came up from the
Yeah.
earth every morning. It was a big, like, I guess you would call it like a rainforest mist that bordered the earth. So every morning was just condensation everywhere. Based on what I really think, from everything I can see, I've heard actually a few other people that say this, even mainstream preachers, which I'm not saying that to be like a good or bad thing, I'm just saying that there was, around the earth it seems like there was water up in the heavens.
Okay.
So you
Farther on the atmosphere.
think about the upper atmosphere of the earth being completely surrounded by a shield of water orbiting the earth. And they've done some actual physical tests, and they find out that I had an image he gave me of the earth before the flood. And the trees were huge. They were like redwood trees everywhere, only bigger. The animals were much bigger. Everything was just producing at massive rates, okay? And they did some tests with water. And if you shield certain lights from the sun, out of the atmosphere, and water will do this, things grow huge.
Because there's more oxygen, too.
It just, I mean,
Yeah.
things grow completely different in an environment. If you took water and surrounded, it shields out things in the atmosphere. And
It's like rainforest.
yeah. And they've done experiments with different animals, and they grow really huge compared to their normal size
Yeah.
in this environment. And so it seems like that was what the flood released was. It was that it did two things.
Shrunk
One,
everything down.
it flooded the earth, and two, when it all got over with, the rays from the sun that were now capable of getting into the earth actually harmed growth on everything now, including man. Before the flood,
They were huge.
well, no, but before the flood, they lived 800-900 years. After the flood, it wasn't that big a difference. I mean, it was just that quick. After Noah's flood, it still lists ages, just like it did before. I mean, all of a sudden, Abraham lived to be 127 years old. This person lived to be 113 years old. A little bit higher than what we're used to, but not really that much higher than what we're used
Not
to.
900.
Before the flood is 9, 8, 7, 6, 9. It's like, what was the big difference? See, that flood affected everything, it seemed like. Lifespans been shortened up dramatically after the flood, according to the scriptures. So it affected everything. So the water thing around the earth makes a lot of sense in a lot of different ways. You can flood the earth really quick. You just open them windows somehow, whatever it took, an asteroid popping through it, that would open it up and start pouring it down, whatever, however other way you want to do it. However he did it, he did it. Then that changed everything.
This is for the turtle, he lives a long, long time.
Yeah, them turtles still get to go. Them
To me, that's
Big ones.
amazing.
terrapin, what do they call them?
Tortoise.
Tortoise, the big ones.
Those big giant turtles that are hundreds of years old. Yeah.
I mean, they found, the dragonflies that were this big, and all that stuff. They were huge.
Yeah.
I read mosquitoes were too.
Yeah.
Yeah, you might not want to get bit by one now.
Take your whole blood supply.